beyond the Liebland Park Road, the Village Road at Herring Cove, and out towards Sambro and Pennant. That's the 349 and the 333 highways. It's also a number of side roads, the Brunt Road, the Shabukta Head Road, the Duncan's Cove Road. And some of the difficulty is that the ownership of those roads appears to vary enormously. I understand that the province no longer takes on ownership of roads, and I entirely understand that. However, my understanding was also that at the time of amalgamation, when HRM 001 agreement was drafted, there was in fact to be a scheduled renegotiation of roads responsibilities in the urban core area 3 years after that. That was 1999. That review has never taken place, and I have certainly written to the minister's predecessor on a number of occasions, and we have correspondence on which we both agree that it was obviously time for the urban core areas of responsibility to be changed. It is true, however, that the Capital District Transportation Authority bill, which was a meager 5-line bill and quite justifiably never did make its way into legislation, would in fact have possibly involved the renegotiation of the roads. My question, however, is, okay, thank you. My question, however, is, will it be possible for renegotiation of roads responsibilities based on population density to take place within the next year or so? Because what's happening is that a number of these roads are of dubious status. They may be private, which I understand. They may be provincially maintained. They may be provincially owned. They may be, of course, HRM maintained because of an exchange of services in the outlying area, which is perfectly understandable and rational, and I'm glad to know it takes place. Or they may be what's called historically maintained, private roads historically maintained. And all I'm saying is that this produces an extraordinarily complicated system of jurisdictions. It makes it very difficult to know, in fact, to whom residents should be approaching. It makes it difficult for political representatives to know to what level of government they should, in fact, be addressing their correspondence. What plans are there at the moment for the renegotiation of the urban core area?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I want to, at the outset, make it clear to the honourable member that we, in fact, have been involved with HRM in transferring responsibilities for roads. And even during my term as minister, I signed the documents that transferred over 60 kilometres of road in the Hammonds Plains area from the province to HRM. And we are very open to further discussions because we agree completely with the honourable member. Some of these are very difficult, and the confusion that's created is something we would like to get rid of. So our door is always open to those discussions.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Atlantic.
Thank you very much, Minister. I do very much appreciate that. Can you maybe tell me, just for my own reference, how those discussions were initiated, how the transfer of 60 kilometres of roads at Hammonds Plains actually began?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I understand that there is a clause in the agreement between the province and HRM, and the triggering clause is a density clause, population density, and that once that density is achieved, then it triggers the mechanism and the process. It's 250 dwellings per square kilometre is the criteria.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Atlantic.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. I think that's one of the most helpful pieces of information I've received in many years. I'm very grateful for that. I'm hoping then that perhaps may lead to the solution of some of the problems that exist at the moment. I'm fairly sure that it will. And these, of course, concern things like sidewalks. I mean, I don't think that the province is in the business of establishing sidewalks. Is that correct? Didn't think so. I didn't think so. And when it's in the HRM area, then it's just HRM puts the sidewalk along the provincial road. Does the same go for trash collection? I assume it does. Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you very much. I have a couple of anomalous places. I do have a couple of anomalies in my writing, and one of them has really driven an unusual number of people crazy. The Chebucto Head Road, I don't know if you're familiar with that situation yet. Chebucto Head Lighthouse was put up for divestiture by the federal government, so it's been in the hands of Public Works now for some period of time. It was offered with a job lot of other lighthouses to the province some 2.5 years ago, that is to say the lighthouse. And of course, in the meantime, the road that leads to Chebucto Head Road is essentially an orphan. The federal government doesn't maintain it. It doesn't belong to the province. It falls inside HRM, of course, but HRM doesn't maintain it. And somehow or other, there ended up being a group of people who, from probably the 1950s forward, have inhabited, a series of bunkers and emplacements, which are all surrounding the lighthouse. Now, is there any mechanism for, even if we assume that this is a federally owned road, but the federal government has no interest in maintaining it any further, is there in fact any mechanism for cost sharing or cost recovery of paving work from the federal government, from an upper level of government?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
I guess, Mr. Chair, I think I have a bit of a sense of the frustration the honourable member is experiencing. I have a not dissimilar situation in my own area. However, we can't get involved in it's not our road to start with, and so we can't get involved in anything without the federal government initiating those discussions. Again, our door is always open with respect to responding to discussions, at least. It's not to say that we would necessarily wind up entering into an agreement, but if somebody comes knocking, we will certainly answer the door at least.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Atlantic.
So, am I correct in thinking that it is possible, though, for a group of citizens living on a private road to petition for the surfacing of the road, say, at their own expense? Is that right?
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
There are situations where when there is a municipal road, that municipalities will enter into agreements with the residents with respect to the resurfacing of the road. But that's it's a municipal policy and not one that we're involved in.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Atlantic.
So there's not actually anything similar at the provincial level. So if there are people on a private road yeah, okay. All right, so I guess we'll have to get the federal government to come knocking at your door and ask for help then. Thank you very much. Could I maybe mention a couple of other things? One that I'm sure you keep on hearing about, and I'm just almost as confused as a number of my residents, although I don't hear about it very much. It's the Rotary. No, I'm sorry, it's not the Rotary, it's the roundabout. What's the status in terms of signage and education expenses so that people can be re-educated? I didn't think it was going to be that difficult, but it's proving to be. I'm sure a number of people in this room know what it's turning into.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The authority with respect to the traffic circle is something that rests with the municipality. As the honourable member would know, we passed enabling legislation in October of 2005 that would provide for traffic circles to be deemed roundabouts. And the basic rule within the roundabout is that you yield to traffic that is already in the circle, unless directed to do otherwise by a traffic control officer or by appropriate lights, traffic control lights, or by signage that would change the situation. The municipal unit has the responsibility for such either traffic control officers, lights, or signage. And it's and I would point out that the legislation that was passed in 2005 was developed in conjunction with HRM, and there was a committee worked jointly from 2003 to develop the legislation until such time as it was passed. So we recognize that, and we are participating with HRM in an education program with respect to educating people of what is expected of users of that traffic circle. But again, when there are signs in place, then the signs take precedence over the normal rules. Where there's a traffic control officer, that takes precedence over the normal rules. Or if there are lights installed, then the lights take precedence over the normal rules.
The honourable member for Halifax Atlantic.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. That's pretty well what I'd thought, so I'm grateful to know. So it had fallen, I mean, it had pretty well always been within the capacity of a municipality to put up signage that would make the traffic go whatever direction it felt like. Yeah, okay, so that'll continue. We'll just have to make sure that the re-education takes place before the educational institutions start back in the fall, because I'm sure you know what September 1st brings. It's not a pretty sight. The only other question that I have, which would touch on a provincially owned road in my jurisdiction, is, oh dear, no, I guess I did have two more questions. One of them is about the Ketch Harbour Road. Now, people are basically very pleased about the extent of the Ketch Harbour Road, which has been repaved. There's a jointure, however, which goes through Sambro. So it's the last couple of kilometres of the Ketch Harbour Road where it goes through Sambro, and it comes to the next couple of kilometres at Acres Road on the old Sambro Road. There is a difficulty with the condition of the pavement there, but there is also a safety condition which I've been discussing with the, I must say, extremely capable and responsive engineers of the Department of Transportation. But just so that you're aware of it, it's the rerouting of the road that took place in the vicinity of Sambro Fisheries. And just because it is a place that it's a crook, I guess, a crook in the road, and there's not enough room to put an 18-wheeler all the way into that, so they find themselves backing out into traffic. And I would hope that there will continue to be work on filling up the old road so that it can, in fact, be raised to a level that it can be used again. I just flagged that for your notice. The other question I had was about the intersection of Northwest Arm Drive and the old Sambro Road. I understand that it does not qualify for a three-way stop. It's an end of highway. It's the end of a highway, but it intersects with another one with fairly significant traffic flow. Is there any way to get this reconsidered? I did ask for an assessment, and they felt it didn't justify it. Certainly a stoplight, but neither a three-way stop. Is there? So I yielded 7:15. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to be sitting down. Yeah. Okay.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and not exactly certain that understand fully the last piece of road that was mentioned, and if the honourable member would provide us with the details, would be glad to respond in writing with respect to that piece. And the first road, what was the number of that again?
349.
Yeah, Route 349, is it? Yeah. We're currently evaluating a response to a tender call on that. We've not awarded the job yet, but the evaluation of that response, or of that tender call, is taking place.
The honourable member for Halifax Atlantic.
I'd like to thank the minister very, very much for that. And with that, I will give the rest of the time back to my colleagues who very generously offered it to me. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and certainly pleased to have the opportunity to continue with some questions to the minister. Yesterday I did run out of time, so we're back at it here today. When I left off, I was talking about the 101. I had already asked a number of questions there. I guess it was probably late winter, early spring. I had a meeting with the deputy minister and also with the department's head engineer, and had been asking questions around the possibility of an interchange on the 101 near the Waterville area. This area, with the continued expansion and growth of Michelin, has certainly increased dramatically the truck traffic through the Waterville-Cambridge area. There's also, of course, Twin Mountain, which have about 50 tractor trailers, Howard Little Construction, and again, with the further expansion of Michelin, probably another 15, 20 tractor trailers per day. It's also an area which does have the two schools, high residential area, and business area in the Colebrook area. And there have been a couple of community meetings in that area. And it only affects sort of the east end of my riding, but it is an area now that I'm occasionally getting a question about. And of course, it's pretty well around safety that we are getting those concerns raised. I'm just wondering, perhaps at this time, perhaps I can get a bit of an update on whether there's, whether there have been plans for that in the past, because I know there was, I think, purchase of some land to make this a reality. Whether or not it's a project which could be near at hand, or is it one that's projected for down the road? Basically, Minister, just wondering about a little update on the possibility of an interchange at that location.
Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I am familiar with the location that is referenced by the honourable member, and the department is aware of the interest in the community for such an interchange. It is a matter that is under consideration, but it is not at the stage where we have determined a specific date as to when the project might begin.
Honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Minister, for that update and for the fact that it is at least there on the radar of the department in terms of possibilities. One of the questions that I've gotten concerning a number of roads is whether or not roads get designated as connector roads, and does that bring with it a certain status and requirement for a certain type of road, certain conditions? I just would like to know a little bit of basic information around that idea, because I haven't always been able to get a full answer at the local base level to that question. So I'm wondering at the department level and through the minister whether or not there is indeed a designation of a connector road.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And it's my understanding that the system of connector roads were determined when the numbers were assigned to roads, and the only time that becomes altered is as a result of a twinning project when a new connector is required and needs to get built in order to serve the interchange on new highways.
The Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That I do perfectly understand. I'm wondering if, however, that concept of a connector road would apply to two roads, for example, like the number 10 highway to number 12 highway, which connect the South Shore with the Annapolis Valley, and also you get a road then in between those two, like the Aylesford Road, and you have then roads that connect the number 10 with the number 12. Are those highways able to command, if the traffic load is there, to have a connector road which would bridge these two together?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I believe the honourable member correctly identified the criteria that needs to be met, and that is that it's a function of the level of economic activity and the volume of traffic that is in an area which would influence such a decision.
The Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, because that's a question that I often get, or certainly it's a comment which prefaces communities and people's desire to have roads improved, and certainly in regards to the Aylesford Road, which has the North River Road connecting it to the number 12, and also the English Mountain Road, which brings it into the Kentville area. This is the North River Road is becoming a much greater volume of traffic year-round, but in particular during summer months. And so while one section of that road has been paved and has an upgrade on it, with now Aylesford Lake having probably 25,000-30,000 users through the course of the summer, more people living year-round and so on around the lakes. It's a very intense forestry area with a lot of logging, and so the number of calls over the 3 years have certainly increased about this section of road, and I'm just wondering whether or not, and again with the advice of your department, whether or not a road like the North River Road would in fact be able to have that connector status.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, but I can tell the honourable member that the level of economic activity that's there is not at a point that would justify that designation currently.
The Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. And certainly, when in talking about the Aylesford Road, it was one of the roads that I certainly heard a great deal of I guess, comments, complaints, and questions around this past year in particular, but certainly each of the years that I have been in office, winter weight restrictions. And both you hear both positive comments and of course you hear some negative ones as well. Now I would certainly conclude that this was a challenging winter. I'm just wondering why, the restrictions, certainly, what it is that makes the determination around whether or not roads are going to open or close. There seemed to be certainly a bit of inconsistency this winter, and I heard from, again, a number of companies in particular that were wanting to move their logs from this area.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And the determination as to when roads are closed and at what time and under what circumstances they would open is based on a measure of the structural strength of the road. And when the frost is coming out of the road and, before it dries, the structural strength of the road is not as high as it needs to be in order to bear the weight of full traffic or full truckloads. So in those circumstances, it's necessary to keep the road closed. And I need to point out to all of us that, and all of us underwent that pressure last year of wanting to get the roads open. But if we were to yield to that pressure, I can tell you that the deficit in terms of dollars to repair roads would be far greater than it is currently, because once you start abusing the structural strength of the road with weights that are overweight, and the honourable member for Preston yesterday was making reference to the damage that's done by trucks in the normal operation when roads are open when they're overweight is something that's very damaging to the roads. And once that damage occurs, then you're into huge dollars in order to restore the road to its original strength. So there are times when yes, we will be accused of hampering commerce, but in the longer run, we're accommodating the longer term commercial activity because we're able to keep the roads in much better shape if we respect the need to monitor the structural strength of the road and respond accordingly.
The Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for that overview. Just to follow up with one, I guess, kind of a short question around this topic, and that is that determined, by an area supervisor, or does it come from somebody within the provincial department level? I'm just wondering who is it that does make that determination?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We have about 40 stations throughout the province that have sub-ground temperature sensors, and they provide much of the information that's required.
The Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, in terms of winter conditions, I know that the department has moved to using a brine, I guess a liquid salt type solution, and I'm just wondering what the department is concluding with this process. Wondering also if it is a cheaper process. Has there been some sort of critical review as to whether this will be expanded? Just wondering again about that particular program.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And the use of the liquid brine is intended to make the salt that's spread on the road more effective. And what it does is it has the effect of having the salt stick to the road as soon as it hits. I don't know if the honourable member can recall, but I can recall traveling behind salt trucks, and even at a safe distance behind them, very often the salt was flying up, or you could see it actually skating across the road and not staying on the road surface. So the intent of the liquid brine is as the salt is coming out of the truck, the liquid brine is sprayed onto the salt, and so the salt is just wet enough when it hits the road surface that it sticks to it, and it begins working right away in terms of doing that. And we've been expanding that program over the past 5 years.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering, Mr. Minister, if you could also make a quick comment in regards to the economics of one process versus the other, or perhaps it's not a standalone process that is used by the department.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I probably should have prefaced my previous answer by saying the whole objective of the use of the liquid brine is to use less salt, and it's proving to be effective in that regard.
The honourable member for Kings West.
Less salt, Mr. Minister, moves right into my next question, because certainly in the rural area, I do get calls and have to deal with the local base garages in terms of well problems. I'm just wondering, what are the kind of readings and for how long a period of time before the department would identify, 1, 2, 3, whatever number of wells in an area that don't seem to clear up. The sodium levels are high, and certainly the department perhaps may need to take some responsibility for. So I'm just wondering at what point does the department say, yes, the readings here indicate that it's an ongoing problem, and just wondering where the department would provide some help to such residents.
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And what we do is we follow the Canadian drinking water standards. And whenever, I'm not going to quote that number because I might be off, but anyway, there is a number, and we follow that. And if it exceeds that particular number, then obviously the well needs to be addressed. And what we attempt to do in those circumstances is to flush the well, and so that it brings it back to an acceptable level. In some circumstances, as was mentioned by the honourable member for Digby Annapolis last night, where it's commonplace for the salt to run and get into the drinking water, we stop the use of salt in those circumstances and use sand.
Honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the other areas that's been raised here in the House by a number of members over the last couple of years, and certainly I've had a couple of circumstances to deal with engine braking, Jake brakes, and certainly there are companies that move close by residential areas, and the two mix together in a rural setting. And I'm wondering what sort of policy dictates that, whether or not signage is going to be posted and there is going to be a ban on the use of the engine braking.
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. In areas where there's a 50-kilometer per hour speed zone, then it is possible to have or post signs prohibiting the use of engine brakes. However, in areas where it is above that, there is no capacity to prohibit the use of the engine brakes.
Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the Minister. What I am wondering then, if there are certainly a number of complaints coming from a residential area, and the speed in the area may be 60 kilometers versus 50 kilometers, and you have people that call up and let you know that they're a shift worker, and engine braking is a problem for them, and you can get a sand pit, not too far from a residential, fairly high density area, and you can get a section of road where engine braking is used considerably. And I am wondering whether or not, in special circumstances, you can have that investigated by the department who may determine whether or not it would be appropriate.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and we're getting into the area of the conflict that exists between the peace and quiet of the residents and the safe operation of a vehicle. And the engine brake is very much part and parcel of the safe operation of the vehicle. That's the dilemma that you face. However, having said that, it is always possible to evaluate the speed zone that's in the area to see whether there is a justification for having that speed zone lowered. If it meets the criteria, then that could possibly happen. But it's an unfortunate dilemma because the safety of the vehicles is very, very important, as well as the comfort factor of residents.
Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for that explanation, very adequate explanation, which does allow at least for some flexibility within an area to at least be investigated. There was an area that when I had the winter theme going about winter conditions and so on, and not at all. I'm wondering if there are areas of the province now where electronic information or electronic boards are being used to indicate that driving conditions and so on will urge motorists to drop their speed and sort of give that warning about road conditions. I'm wondering, along better winter safety information for drivers, whether or not that is currently being used.
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I'm sure the honourable member knows that we do have in place the webcams at various locations, and those are also weather stations and everything you can get, and those pictures are updated on a regular basis, as are the conditions that exist there. So you can get a visual of the area as well as a digital look at it. We do the road reports, which are given a couple of times a day on local radio stations. That is available, and we're also developing a capacity to be able to call in and get an indication of what road conditions are in various locations if you were planning a trip. So that's I believe, the extent of what we have to date.
Honourable Member Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister. No, I know, having traveled some through New England in winter months, that is certainly one of the safety measures that they do have available for the traveling public. So I was wondering if, in fact, we had moved in that direction to some extent. And certainly, I know some progress has been made for motorists to get a view of where they may be going. One of the areas that perhaps I would say probably over the course of a year get a considerable number of calls around and calls for, and that is in some areas around Kingston, Greenwood, Aylesford in particular, that have old subdivisions and where either sand seal, chip seal, or in some cases pavement was put down maybe 30, 35, maybe even 40 years ago. I'm wondering if it's still the same program that would apply to a subdivision that at one point cost shared the paving of those roads, whether in fact that's the same process that they must go through once again.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And those roads do, in fact, receive treatment over time, either resurfacing or, putting the same surface back. There have been circumstances where, when there has been some increased local demand, shall we say, for service, that that we have entered into cost-sharing arrangements with the municipalities involved to do the treatment sooner than otherwise would have been the case.
Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you. What I was asking here and wanting to know if there is, any change in programs in terms of cost sharing, that you have a road that has been established through a subdivision, now that is to be maintained by the Department of Transportation, and whether or not that road once again would be cost shared in order to be resurfaced, to have new pavement go in, or new chip seal, whatever it may be required. Some of these subdivisions are 35, 40 years since pavement was put down. So I'm just wondering under what program those may come. Is it a straight municipality sharing with the province, or is it again the residents through the municipality and the province that would be cost sharing renewal of those subdivision roads?
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If they are roads which are part of the provincial highway system, then they are roads which we, in the normal course of events, would go out and resurface from time to time. If, as I indicated previously, it's a road that's under provincial jurisdiction, and there is increased demand in the area to have the road done sooner than would have been the case in our normal schedule of activity. If the municipality is prepared to enter into a cost-sharing arrangement, then we have, in those circumstances, entered into those cost-sharing agreements.
Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Minister, for that explanation. That's where I was looking for some insight into those subdivisions and what may be able to transpire for those residents in the future. One of the major, I guess, forms in the past of upgrading roads in some of the valley areas, of course, was the sand seal process. And there was a period of time in which a tremendous amount of surfacing was done, and especially along that Esker area, roughly, Aylesford, Berwick, west to probably Middleton. And it's a process now which is not used as much, and in fact, upgrading seems to be limited to very small areas. And I'm just wondering why that process has fallen out of favor when in fact some of the sand seal roads that were put in place and maintained on a regular basis, and I know certainly at much more reduced cost, in fact probably substantial cost savings, and why that process has not been as in favor, if you wish, with the department in the last number of years.
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I understand that the sand seal surfacing is a rather expensive process, and that it's much more cost-effective to grade and chloride the roads than it is to put the sand seal surface down.
Honourable Member for Kings West.
Probably at this point then, Mr. Minister, I was wondering if you could speak in terms of if a kilometre of road is sand sealed, and we're talking about a new process, versus chip seal versus paving, what are the general figures that are being used today for each of these methods, which certainly any and all three can improve roads in some areas. I know sand seal in some areas may not be preferable, but certainly in our area historically it has served some of the country roads and some that have pretty good volumes of traffic. I'm just wondering what the difference is to do 1 kilometre using each of the processes.
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The interesting thing about this process is, as your minister, you learn a lot. And the cost of sand seal per year that's $4,000 per year for sand seal. The double chip seal is $200,000, and sand seal is $200,000 per kilometer. And sand seal it has to be done is it every year? Every year. And the new pavement is about $275,000. Now that figure depends on circumstances, of course, but those are I believe, the figures that you asked for.
Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. One other process that is used, certainly perhaps certainly on the 100 series highways I'm familiar with, and I was wondering about the cost per kilometer, and when and why is micro-sealing used versus repaving, our 100 highly traveled roads across the province and ones that handle most of our heavy traffic. So again, wondering what the cost is for micro-sealing for a kilometer, and why is it that process is used versus repaving?
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The purpose of the micro-sealing is to extend the life of the pavement. It's not intended to be used as a repaving in any way. And the cost of micro sealing is $60,000 per kilometer, as opposed to the cost of repaving a 100 series highway, which is $300,000 per kilometer.
Honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and Mr. Minister. There was one area, get 3 or 4 other questions to finish up with, and there was one area in the budget or in the estimates here that had a decrease, and it was in regards to the budget amount allotted to field communications services, and that, of course, goes to field communications and organizations such as provincial departments, volunteer public safety like firefighters, ground search and rescue, and even to the RCMP across the province. Now, this sector certainly is very important to, we know, the safety, well-being of Nova Scotians. So I'm wondering why the estimates for this budget are less than the previous one.
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Included in that number, as well as the services that the honourable member referenced, is the amortization costs for the equipment, and the equipment is getting older now, so the cost of that amortization has decreased, and that accounts for the decline in the numbers.
Honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, because certainly, you know, our ground search and rescue, and we realize the service that they do provide for us right across the province. Certainly, you know, I think none of us would want to see, you know, a compromise in terms of those support to those organizations. One of the areas locally, and again, I'm sure at many of the base garages across the province, there's always a concern about equipment and the state of equipment. I think member opposite last night brought this question up as well. I'm wondering currently if the Berwick base is in line for any new equipment in this fiscal year. I know they speak in terms of certainly needing equipment, and I'm just wondering if in fact there is any plans for something for the coming year.
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and or Mr. Chair. The equipment budget this year is an $8 million figure, and that's a $2 million increase over the previous year. The specifics as to where all of that's going to go is not something that I have with me currently, but we'll certainly check to see whether your area will in fact be impacted by this.
Honourable member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And a couple of areas to finish off on around safety. And I know it's been raised in the House here through question period, and also I think by at least one of the opposition members as well. And that is, you know, the issue around crosswalks, and certainly it's one that in the spring was highlighted by the community putting together online petitions for something more concrete to happen here in the province. I'm just wondering, first of all, you know, where the responsibilities lie here in terms of municipal units and the province in terms of crosswalk safety.
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The regulations governing crosswalks are set provincially, but most crosswalks are installed and part of the cost of the municipal unit.
Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And with that, Mr. Minister, does your department, currently have a plan in place to go forward with? Is it under review? Because certainly the numbers and the statistics beg for greater crosswalk safety. In fact, the Deputy Speaker and my colleague from Clare came very, very close to a crosswalk mishap just last week, just down the road here, and in fact, had to do the quick jump and tap on the car, or he would have, been hit. So the statistics are pretty alarming in terms of the number of accidents and also fatalities compared to some of the other provinces. I'm wondering where the department is going to move on this issue.
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And as I indicated, it's a shared responsibility with us setting the regulations, and the municipal units, for the most part, responsible for the enforcement of the regulations around the operation of crosswalks. And the department is involved with the Road Safety Advisory Committee, and that committee, on a continuing basis, monitors what's happening in terms of best practices throughout North America. And that, as a result of that, we're in continuously updated with respect to anything new that happens. But Nova Scotia follows the national standard for signs and markings for crosswalks. And we're always ensuring that we stay in tune with those standards and keep up to date with them. And that's something that we do on a continuous basis. Now, everybody has a responsibility when it comes to the use of crosswalks. We can design the greatest crosswalk in the world, and if drivers and pedestrians are not on the alert, then unfortunately there will be incidents at crosswalks. And drivers have to be on the lookout for crosswalks all of the time. Drivers need to understand that at intersections there is also assumed crosswalks to be in effect. So they always have to be looking for pedestrians in those circumstances. The pedestrians have a responsibility as well, not to simply assume that because there is a crosswalk there that it is safe for them to go ahead and start walking across. But rather, it's not a good practice. Pedestrians, I believe, have a responsibility to make sure they get the eye of drivers and understand that the driver knows that they're about to use the crosswalk, or they're in the crosswalk. That's the safe and prudent way of behaving in crosswalks, and that requires a continuous program of education, and that is something that we need to be cognizant of all of the time, and make sure that we're carrying out the appropriate efforts to remind people of their responsibilities at crosswalks, whether they be drivers of automobiles or whether they be pedestrians using the crosswalk.
Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just two other areas around the theme of safety. One of the statistics, of course, that does come to light at certain times during the year, and one which many Nova Scotians do take a look at, and that is highway accidents, and in particular fatalities. We certainly seem to have had a rash of them in the last couple of months. I'm just wondering, if that's more, perception and the media. I'm just wondering if how we are doing, how we are faring in the first 6 months of 2006, and how that kind of compares with sort of a 5-year averaging, so that we kind of have a realistic picture of where we are, and also any sort of trending in terms of highways or sections of highways that seem to be perhaps a bit more alarming.
Honorable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And unfortunately, there has been a slight increase in the number of accidents in the last year, and the primary cause of those accidents has been driver inattention and alcohol and speed. Those are, for instance, in January 1, 2000 to June 30th of 2006, the speed too fast for conditions, there were 12 of 40 accidents caused by that, 11 of 40 by driver inattention, 6 of involving alcohol, 6 of 40 involving alcohol and speed, 4 of 40 involving alcohol alone, weather conditions 2 of 40, and others were others. The use of safety devices, that is seat belts, could have led to a different outcome in a significant number of the motor vehicle fatalities if they had been used. So unfortunately, 10 out of 40 fatalities involved alcohol, which represents a significant increase over the same period in 2005. So that's, again, that's a matter of enforcement, education, and the continuous reminder that people need to be aware of, speed kills, alcohol kills, and inattention, driver inattention is also responsible for a significant number. Some of the initiatives that we've been involved in, our road safety supplement appeared in the Chronicle Herald during the week of May 15th of 06, and that's Canada Road Safety Week. That's one thing that we do to raise the awareness. The design of alcohol ignition interlock program is set to come into effect in January 1 of 07, and the new child seatbelt regulation is coming into effect in January 1 of 07. These are measures which we're currently involved in terms of addressing this.
Honourable Member for Kings West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to the Minister. Had one other question, but I only have about a minute left. So I'd like at this time to thank the Minister and his staff for the way in which certainly my questioning was accommodated this evening. As the Minister himself said, a little bit tough conditions in here with the heat that we are enduring. But one of the things and one of the constants certainly for me as an MLA is the outstanding cooperation that I get from the Berwick base, and certainly the New Minas staff where the area manager is located. We've had a change there, but certainly good, strong relations are the commonality with the previous area manager that was given out here this evening, Mr. Barron, who has moved to another area. So I'd like for the Minister to pass on those staffs if he's down in the Valley area at some time. Certainly the professional way in which they carry out their work. Certainly I'm a person that believes in a very strong professional staff, and if there were one little critical area, I would say perhaps maybe a few too many casuals. I'm an absolute believer in strong professional staff and development, and hopefully that can be maintained. And with that, I thank the Minister for his enlightenment this evening.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and simply on behalf of the employees want to express my appreciation to the honourable member for his comments and for the comments of other members that have been made in the course of the estimates.
The Honourable Minister for Timberlea Prospect.
Not yet, Mr. Chairman, but a time will come. Thank you, Mr. Minister, for sharing a few minutes of your time. I was wondering where Bob Barron came from. Bob is one of the area managers suburban that I have the pleasure of working with, and I compliment Mr. Barron in particular and the men who work out of the Beachville base. Might be some women who work there too, so I want to make sure that I pass on again the compliments to the particular people who work out of Beachville and the good job they do. But I guess I better get the negativity out of the way. I can't say as much for the claims department, Mr. Minister. The claims department. You know, how many times have I heard from people who've had their mailbox snapped off by a snowplow, cracked into the back of their truck, parked in their own driveway, damage, not DOT's responsibility? How many times have I had complaints from people on the Prospect Road who've had various pieces of gravel or ice or whatever that will come off of a plow or come off the back of a truck and end up on a damaged windshield? Not DOT's responsibility. So, you know, you inform people, get the time, get the damage, get the details. We'll go to the claims department. I can tell you who to call. We'll send an email. We'll send a fax. And the answer always comes back, not our responsibility. You know, I'm just wondering, aside from the fact that I do know that to the staff, they're very responsive. They call us back. They respond in writing when we ask it. But I mean, some of these cases seem to me to be the responsibility of the Department of Transportation. They were cutting brush. The member from Digby Annapolis will be impressed with this. They were cutting alders. The alders were cut. They were on the side down in Blind Bay, which is a community down by the ocean. That particular night, because the wind was blowing so darn hard, the alders, the brush, end up out in the middle of the road, okay? They're in the middle of the road. This young nurse is going to work early the next morning, and there's brush and alders everywhere, right? And she eventually has problems maneuvering the car, and there's some damage done to her vehicle. But not DOT's responsibility. So, and I know I'm starting on the wrong foot because I'm complimentary to your staff. I would like to know how many claims the Department of Transportation receives and how many of them are settled in favor of the claimant in the past year.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. For the 0506 fiscal year, there were 1,170 claims made against the department. 385 payments were made, and the total amount of the payments was $2.4 million.
The Honourable Member for Timberlea Prospect.
I thank you for the response. Those are the sort of statistics that I can say to people, yes, there must be somebody somewhere where they're getting a claim settled successfully. Maybe it's just our bad luck, or maybe it's the fact that for one reason or another, you know, DOT says it's not their responsibility and your hands are tied if you're going to go through your insurance claim or whatever reason, you're not far enough back from the truck for whatever reason. But I can tell you that particular one that happened on the Prospect Road a number of years ago always baffled me. And it always baffled me, too, how it seems that the MLA from Timberlea Prospect's mailbox always gets the you-know-what beaten out of it. I don't know whether it's the plow operator or whether it's my political colors, but I'll tell you, my mailbox should have an orange and black target on it because it religiously gets dinged every winter. And sometimes, in fact, I think the other mailbox get missed and mine get hurt. But hey, I'm just telling that one is I never put a claim in. Heaven forbid I do that. Anyway, if it is still Bruce Langell, Mr. Langell, you're going to continue to hear from us, but you won't hear from my wife anymore. She's given up on our mailbox. I'd like to turn to a topic that I've seen in a number of other jurisdictions. And that is, of course, something that maybe we should consider in this province. In rural communities especially, do we have such things as church signs, church zones? In rural communities, especially along older roads and on certain Sundays, or I guess Saturday afternoons of various other events, I do know that in Prince Edward Island, they have signs that say, church ahead, right? I'm not saying they're asking to reduce speed. That is not even on the list when you see that particular sign. But do we have anywhere in this province signs that designate that a church is ahead and that you should, particularly on a Sunday, be careful of the fact, slow down a little bit. There could be some church traffic.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm informed that we don't have any such signs in the province.
Honourable Member for Timberlea Prospect.
No, I'm not going to ask that. It's too easy. Well, Prince Edward Island has them, and I think in some situations, particularly the tourist business, would be interested in the fact they give tours of churches and tours of cemeteries in Prince Edward Island. You always know when you're coming near a church, you're looking for the cemetery attached to the church. It's not a bad idea. But let's move from Prince Edward Island to New Brunswick. You come across the Canterbury Marshes, and let me tell you, the wind's blowing, and I think the member from Cumberland North perhaps know of the community that I'm talking about. Back in the homeland, as I come across to the glorious border town of Amherst, I'm coming through the Canterbury Marsh, and you know, the wind's blowing pretty good, and you're trying to be attentive, and you're trying to get over as far as the slumberland, at least, where you know you can have a place to put your head down for the night. And as you come across, I'm on the New Brunswick side of the Missaquash, okay? And I can tell you that coming along that stretch of the Canterbury Marsh, you can run into rumble strips. And the rumble strips are on the side of the road. You know, they're on that part of the road that if you happen to drift off the shoulder of the road, you suddenly you feel a rattle and you realize, you know, I got to bring it back over here because of for either inattentiveness, this is because I'm driving in a snowstorm, or a bit of a whiteout situation. Those rumble strips really are an asset in certain areas where there is blowing snow in particular. Now, I know that we have them in other places as you come up to, for example, the Cobequid Pass. And I'm sure that if there's a dangerous intersection, those rumble strips are of assistance. But is there anywhere in this province that we have, you know, blowing snow that's a continuous problem, that we do have these rumble strips on the shoulder of the road?
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And the answer to the honourable member's question is no, not yet.
Honourable Member for Timberlea Prospect.
Well, don't forget, we don't have the corner on great ideas all the time in this province. We can use a PE idea about church signs. We could also, of course, use those ideas about rumble strips, particularly in those areas where there's blowing and drifting snow. They are of some assistance, in my opinion. For that particular night, making my way across the marsh from New Brunswick to Amherst, they certainly assisted me that evening as they brought me back to realizing that's not the side of the road or the part of the road that I want to be on. Well, Mount Tom is another area, because if you're aware of the fact that I have a tendency whenever I come across Mount Tom, particularly in the winter, to want to go in the ditches, especially want to go in the medians. But that's another topic on a windy, blowy day. However, let's talk about medians on roads. I am always concerned about the fact, not just for the tourists looking at our medians, but the fact is that I find that in certain parts of our twinned highways across this province, the deer have a wonderful feast each and every evening. And if you're on the road early enough in the morning, you better keep your wits about you, because the deer are going to move out of the median where they've sat or ate or laid or whatever all night, and then they're going to be on the move early in the morning back into wherever they are going to be for the heat of the day, to avoid that particular part of the temperature problem that they have. But I look at the medians across the province, and I haven't had the occasion except to drive up through Amherst a few times in the last couple of weeks on the way to Prince Edward Island. The medians could stand a mowing, could stand to get the hay knocked down in there. In fact, probably my good friend from Hants East should take some of his sheep in there, fence it off and use it and put us all with a lot of help. So I'm concerned about not just the fact that we're looking at it for tourist reasons and the fact that, of course, we're not going to be mowing the sides of the roads necessarily, but the medians in the 103, the 102 are extremely dangerous. And I would think that it would be an asset to get in some areas of the province to get down in there with the proper equipment and to get those mowed. Has that been ever entertained by your department?
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and the honourable member. In respect to our policy with respect to vegetation along roadways and in medians, one of the objectives of our policy is to encourage as much natural vegetation and encourage the growth of species that are native to the area and able to survive in those environments. And when they are mowed on a very frequent basis, then you lose the capacity to encourage that goal being achieved. We do, in fact, mow from time to time, and it's every few years that we mow. But one of the things, of course, that we do is remove any trees that grow in the medians.
Honourable Member for Timberlea Prospect.
I would think that in certain areas, particularly because of the frequency, and it's a question I'm going to ask about accidents here. I realize that we, of course, have to keep statistics on all kinds of things in our province and in your department. The frequency of accidents involving deer, involving animals, hopefully none of a tragic nature, but I'm sure that your district people could tell you in certain occasions, they know where there's deer crossing, they know where there's problem with animals at whatever time of the day, early in the morning or late at night, and I think that those areas particularly should receive attention when it comes to mowing, and I'm not saying once a week, but I am saying a couple of times during the season. I want to go back to the topic of accidents. It was a question that my colleague from the third party had brought forward. But I want to ask the question because I know that my past colleague from Dartmouth North would be remiss if we didn't bring it up tonight. And that is, of course, the number of accidents that are caused not just by inattentiveness, by people on cell phones. Do we have any statistics in your department of cell phone accidents, the reason being identified by either the RCMP, city, town police on that topic?
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We have statistics for a category which is referenced as inattention, driver inattention. And that goes from anywhere from reading newspapers or instruction manuals for Palm Pilots or putting on your makeup, eating your breakfast, or taking the curlers out of your hair. I'm not suggesting the honourable member has to do that, but and the use of cell phones are all included within that particular category. And as I indicated previously, from January 106 to June 30th of this year, there were 11 of 40 accidents that were caused, or fatalities, I'm sorry, that were caused by that, by driver inattention.
Honourable Member for Timberlea Prospect.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the answer. I'm aware of the inattentiveness problem, and I want you to know that my past colleague from Dartmouth North, of course, is still concerned about the fact that we continue to have a problem with cell phones in our province, and it's absolutely at times unbelievable what people are doing while they're driving, but that cell phones continue to be a problem for sure. A couple of specific local issues, and your staff have been responsive to these requests, but I want to put them on the record. The Prospect Road intersects with the St. Margaret's Bay Road very much close to the Beachville base. And on the Prospect Road, as you go down to the fishing villages on the left-hand side, is Exhibition Park. And Exhibition Park at times, the Home Show, the Atlantic Winter Fair, the Fall Fair, Harvest Fair, whatever it's called now, graduations from our schools and so on, cause huge problems, absolutely huge problems, because of the traffic and the fact, of course, of the amount of traffic that's coming out of the end of the Prospect Road, either trying to make a left or coming up the St. Margaret's Bay Road, trying to get down to the Prospect Road. We've asked many times for a review of having a directional green or a delayed arrow, or I'm sorry if I don't have the terminology correct anymore. But I mean, that would seem to me to be an ideal place, particularly when it comes to traffic coming out of Exhibition Park, when it comes to an ideal time when you look at the growth of the communities on the Prospect Road, as they're coming out at rush hour or coming back up the road, there is no way of making that left-hand turn. It's extremely difficult. And I'd ask my friend from Hants East to pick my next question up off the floor in the back of him there. The wind caught us. I'm just wondering about the criteria for establishing these sorts of lights at various intersections. I mean, at sometimes in peak traffic, it's a huge problem, but at other times, particularly around the events that I mentioned connected with the Exhibition Park on the Prospect Road, it's a huge problem. It's a mammoth problem. Traffic is backed up for an hour on some occasions. And that directional green, if I can describe it that way, that left turning lane, or that left turning, not lane, that left turning arrow would certainly be of great assistance. I've received the correspondence, I'm appreciative of the staff, but I'm asking the minister to please have his staff look at that again.
Honourable Minister for Transportation, Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I can tell the honourable member that we do have the capacity to apply standards to situations to see whether signals are warranted, and we're quite happy to take the situation that he described and have a look at it for him. We don't normally get involved with accommodating events. You know, very often I know what happens in my own area when there are events on that significantly increase the traffic. Very often you'll find RCMP out taking a role in the actual direction of traffic in those circumstances. But it'd be difficult to warrant going ahead and installing signal lights simply to accommodate a few events. But I'm not certain. Don't pretend to know the details of the situation the honourable member referenced, but we will in fact have a look at it, and I'll be in communication with him with respect to that.
Honourable Member for Kimberley Prospect.
We brought that matter of the attention of having the RCMP or Chief Baisley, because it's one of those, from the HRM, it's one of those areas that's right on the cusp. You know, when we're dealing with the Provincial Department of Transportation, and the responses that I received from the Beachville base are much more appropriate, and I could put it not just appropriate, much more prompt than sometimes when a municipal official deals with a provincial MLA and their first response is, you have to go through your councillor. But we've had that difficulty ironed out, I think. But in this case, Chief Baisley, with his roots in Whites Lake, which is one of the communities on that road, is aware of the difficulty. I want to clarify this point, and I think it's of some significance. There are two unique fishing villages in the community that I represent that have tourists as a major draw. One is the village of Prospect, which has the High Head Conservation Area enclosed in it, a major attraction to naturalists, people who want to see a real practicing fishing village and not necessarily the commercialism of the neighboring Peggy's Cove. No reflection on Peggy's Cove, but it's certainly the village of Prospect and High Head in particular is a huge attraction for tourists. The road to Prospect Bay Road is in need of an upgrade. And I know it's on a list. I've been told by staff that it's on a list, and it hasn't made the list this year. There is another unique fishing village called Terrence Bay. Terrence Bay has the SS Atlantic, it has the Sandy Cove Lighthouse, it has the village of Lower Prospect. Another road that is of real consequence as you come from Porcupine Hill. I know the members are interested in me talking about Porcupine Hill, of course. Porcupine Hill down to Lower Prospect. Again, another road that will not be looked at this year for an upgrade and some work. Now, I understand that they haven't made the list this year, but I want to clarify, if the minister could clarify with me, as tourist destinations, and of course people live there, there's employment possibilities in those communities, particularly when it comes to the lobstering industry and so on. What role does the fact that these unique fishing villages are tourist destinations, what role does that play in the decision of whether a road gets up on the priority list?
Honorable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I can tell the honourable member that the tourism destination is a factor that is taken into consideration when decisions are taken with respect to highway improvements. And I'm familiar with the roads the honourable member referenced, and I would hope we could see some improvement there in the very near future.
Honorable Member Timberlea Prospect.
Before I share my time with my colleague from Shelburne, I want to highlight the advertising campaign that the DOT staff gets involved in at certain peak times in the year. And I want to compliment them for the appropriateness of the advertisements. And I want you to staff to please continue to use that feather duster ad. Anything sticks with people. You have people who will say as they've bought their new truck, and maybe it's just a Dodge Sport, like somebody I know, but you put your hand outside the window and you say, this ain't no feather duster here. So continue to use those appropriate advertisements. In many cases, I know with the limited dollars at your disposal, you're doing an admirable job, and I'd like to thank the staff that I work with at the province, including the claims department that I have the difficulties with, and the people at the Beachville base for the good work that they do. And with that, Mr. Minister, I will thank you for your time, and I'll turn my time over to the member from Shelburne.
Honorable Member from Shelburne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I really do appreciate this time. I believe it's a privilege and an honor to stand in this House and ask questions to the Minister, and I really appreciate your time, Mr. Minister. Perhaps you can predict my first question. The Minister is very aware that the 103 highway is still unfinished, in particular the Barrington area. This exchange has been scheduled for a number of years, Mr. Minister. My understanding is it is scheduled to be completed in October of this year, 06. And my first question to the Minister, Mr. Minister, is this schedule on target?
Honorable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And as the honourable member would know, on that section of 103, there are two structures that are required. The tenders have been advertised and let for those two structures, and the work should be underway, if it's not already underway, in the two structures. The paving part of the work that needs to be done, we hope to have those contracts out before the end of this month, and it's the anticipated completion date is before the end of October. So the date that will be on the tenders would be October 31st.
Honorable Member for Shelburne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That is welcome news for the residents of Shelburne County. The next question, Mr. Minister, the residents of Clyde River who live on a gravel road, which is roughly 10 to 15 kilometers long, have endured this particular situation for a number of years, and you alluded to the issue about gravel roads and the climate changes, and I suggest to you that the climate changes in southwest Nova Scotia is unlike most places across Nova Scotia. We have a very warm climate, and there is very high fluctuations of frost moving and heaving the roads. And these people have endured this for a number of years. And I'd like to point out in Clyde River, there is approximately 100 homes that's roughly 10 kilometers up this particular gravel road. This gravel road is also, there's a number of times that there's large logging trucks that frequent this road. This is also an opportunity that school buses frequents this road. And I suggest to the minister that there's a Clyde River that runs parallel to this gravel road, and the residents have been, for a number of years, have been inquiring. It has made the priority list for the Barrington municipal government that I was past warden of, and they identified that as the priority within that particular municipality. My question to the minister is, when will this road have an opportunity to be paved?
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And that particular road is a road like a lot of roads in our province, gravel road. Our challenge currently is to maintain the inventory of paved roads that we have. And all of the resources that we have are devoted to maintaining that inventory of paved roads. And despite the fact that we have quadrupled the capital budget for the department since 2000, we still have the challenge of maintaining the inventory of paved roads that are in the province. And until such time as we feel that we have achieved that particular objective, it will be very difficult for us to entertain additional or new pavement on gravel roads.
Honourable Member for Shelburne.
Well, Mr. Minister, I'd like to point out and like to go on the public record as I believe, and residents across Shelburne County believe, that this particular policy is seriously flawed. I suggest to you that over the number of years, 10 to 15 years, particularly in Clyde River, there's been some major development there. There has been major development in attracting tourism to our community. And people has invested, in fact, millions of dollars to locate these individuals here. And we have complaints of individuals having broken axles. Their front end is falling off. And I suggest to the minister that it's difficult to promote your community when you ask tourism or tourist operators to drive their RVs in hundreds of thousands of dollars across these roads. So I think you could understand or appreciate the frustration level that these individuals have, not only in attracting tourism, but the safety of their children. There's people that their individual children are on these school buses, and I suggested to you that there is a danger there with this river that runs parallel to this road. There is not sufficient guardrails. So I'm suggesting, as long with the number of people across Shelburne County, that this particular policy is flawed and it needs to be reviewed. I asked the minister to review that. My next question to the minister is, the 103, my personal view is that the road has heavy traffic on it, and there's areas that there has been rutting or the channeling of the road, if you follow what I'm trying to explain here. And there's a number of these areas, in particular as you approach Sable River in Shelburne County. And I'll suggest to the minister, I can prove my point, if he would like to accompany me in a heavy rainstorm. And I did this once in our local council. I challenged the local RCMP officer, who was a sergeant at the time, to go out in a heavy rainstorm and take a drive on one of the roads in our community. And the RCMP officer took me up on this, and I suggest to you, Mr. Minister, to take a drive in a heavy rainstorm in the Sable River area And where these roads are channeled, in a heavy rainstorm, there's very dangerous. There's a potential for cars to hydroplane, and I think that this is unsafe. I think it's unsafe for our traveling tourism. I think it's unsafe for the traveling public across Nova Scotia. And I'll put the question to the minister, has this particular issue been brought up, and is there some kind of a direction or a policy to address this issue?
Honorable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And the honourable member's question certainly provides the opportunity for me to come back to my answer to his previous question. And that is the challenge that we have of maintaining the existing inventory of paved roads. And the fact that we get roads to the point that are the condition that the honourable member describes is indicative of the fact that we're not getting to repave roads as rapidly as we need to in order to maintain the existing inventory. So if I were, for example, to go ahead and agree to the honourable member's request to pave the gravel road up along the Clyde River as he suggested, then that would delay for another period of time the repaving of the road to which the honourable member referenced with the rutting that's taking place. That's the simple fact. If you take money from here and you put it over there, there isn't any more money for this area, and that's the challenge that we have. And certainly we've made note of the comments of the honourable member about that particular section of paved road, and we'll make certain that that it is looked at. But again, I want to point out to the honourable member that that is the challenge that we have in terms of maintaining the existing inventory of paved roads, is to find sufficient funds to do it. So, if we were to start taking the decision to pave existing gravel roads, then that would be at the expense of properly maintaining the inventory of paved roads that we have.
Member for Shelburne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, but I still want to finish my point on the 103. I believe also that there's portions of this 103 that needs to be completed. I suggest that, in fact, the residents of Shelburne County suggest that the entire 103 needs to be completed from Barrington to Halifax, and I suggest that there's portions of the 103 that we asking our traveling public to reduce their speeds to 50 kilometers per hour. I believe that's in southwest Portland too, and I believe that is unfair, and I think it's unreasonable to ask this traffic to reduce their speeds on a 103 highway. If I can take the minister in a different direction now on the conditions of our trunk 3 highways, or secondary roads, or collector roads, whatever you wanted to call them. I refer to them in my community as the old trunk 3. There are many areas, Mr. Minister, that we have seen some flash floodings in the recent years, and the residents of these particular areas have suggested that these culverts or drainage areas have been in place for a number of years, up to 50 years in places, and many of these culverts have been plugged or simply have been squashed from the heavy weight that they endured over a number of years. My question is, there's a number of these throughout Shelburne County. Is there a scheduling or policy in place to address the needs, especially these heavy drainage areas?
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And the situations the honourable member describes are matters that I would recommend to him that he raise with his OS, operating supervisor, or area manager in the area, and bring them to their attention, because they do have maintenance budgets, and those maintenance budgets are to correct the situations to which the honourable member referred.
Honourable Member for Shelburne.
Well, Mr. Chair, I believe I've asked him questions a number of times, and he keeps coming back to trying to find the money. So I'll keep asking the question. If I can take the minister in just another direction for the time being, I'll try to direct your attention to exit 5, I believe the Tantallon area, which there is some construction that's underway right now. And my concern is that this was a real experience the last time I come to Halifax this week. And maybe because I'm from that town, but I have a sense that if you come off of coming from the westward, as you move towards exit 5, you're confronted with a 2-lane highway that's reduced to 2-way traffic. And the sense, or the false sense, of you look to your left, you look to your right, and there's 2 lanes being built under construction as you enter that 2-way traffic. And I feel that there's a sense of security there, or you give the driver that there's another highway there, and it gives you this is a two-way traffic. And I think there needs to be more signs showing that this is under construction and this is going to be a 2-way traffic for some time.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and the honourable member certainly identifies one of the real challenges that we have when we're involved in the construction of new roads, especially when you're involved in that construction next to an existing road, and ensuring that people understand what is happening. There is a very clear effort made to provide considerable signing in those circumstances, and you know, that's one of the things that we try to pay a great deal of attention to. However, it's you know, construction is not easy, and the inconveniences that are caused as a result of construction are at times a challenge to deal with.
Honourable Member for Shelburne.
Mr. Minister, my previous job was the warden of the Barrington Municipality, as I pointed out earlier. And one of the successful campaigns or program that's evolved from that particular time was the Clean the Highway program, was held by our municipality. And that was so successful that we had comments from our public and saying how great a job the municipality did. I believe we put $30,000 in at one time, and the next year we reduced that to $20,000. And the residents bought into that concept, and we could actually see a visual appearance that was better, in our community bought into that concept. I understand that you do have adopt the highway program. I guess my question is that why can't we form a partnership with the municipalities and pay individuals to go out and do a better job in cleaning these highways up, there is a large number of litter in certain areas.
Honourable Minister for Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and indeed we are very supportive of Adopt a Highway programs, and we have quite a number of them across the province. The suggestion by the honourable member brings us face to face with the challenges we have under the collective agreements, and when we send people out to work, they are governed by the clauses of that collective agreement, and that makes it very challenging for us to go ahead and get involved with others in terms of doing that work. And that's part of the difficulty we have. And again, it's a question of resources. If it's paying people to go out and work full time at doing that, then the same people are not clearing the culverts that the honourable member referenced.
Honourable Member for Shelburne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Again, our rural areas in Shelburne County, many communities, most, if not 99% of them, have no sidewalks. They simply have a shoulder of the road, which for people to walk on. And this has been brought to my attention a number of times. We have areas that is less than 20 inches wide. And the residents of communities are very concerned about the safety of their children who are getting off of school buses. Again, we have these roads are frequent by heavy trucks, and they're expecting their children to travel these back to their homes. The question is there a certain policy in place that the shoulder of the road should be a certain distance from the pavement? Because this has been brought to my attention a number of times, and I need to have that question addressed.
Honorable Minister for Transportation, Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and the honourable member would appreciate many of the roads that we have in the province are older roads, and as a result, the standards to which they were built originally are not the same as the standards that exist today. And as a result, you have conditions such as those described by the honourable member. When we get involved in a repavement program for paved roads, then we endeavour to expand the width of the shoulder at that time, and we try to have the width to be about a metre in length.
Honourable Member for Shelburne.
Mr. Chair, to the Minister, again, my colleague raised a question earlier about church signs. And again, this has been brought up at the local municipal level and on to our superintendent at the time. And there was a church in my hometown, actually, the Wesleyan Church in Woods Harbor, that's on a steep grade, a blind hill, and at certain times when there's functions there's a lot of traffic. And this is a very treacherous or dangerous situation. And I tried unsuccessfully at the municipal level to have signs installed there to get the speed limit reduced. And again, I believe that there's a need or a plan should be developed to address these situations such as a church.
Honourable Minister for Transportation, Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the comments that the honourable member is making, and certainly, you know, he describes a situation which, from time to time, in the course of a week, creates a situation where considerable care is required. As I indicated previously, we do not have such signs in the province, but certainly, you know, we deal with situations where churches are located on roads that were built quite some period of time ago, and that's one of the consequences.
The Honourable Member for Shelburne.
Mr. Minister, through the chair, this question is not to be sounded, it may sound as if it's a sensitive question, but I believe the residents of Shelburne County want me to address this. Shelburne County has watched this last year or 2 years that the paving projects in Chester St. Margaret's during the last by-election. They watched previous to this election, they see 5 or 4 tenders being called in Yarmouth. The question is why Shelburne County does not get their fair share of paving projects.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation, Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And you know, the amount of money that is spent in a particular area is an amount that just leave it there for a second. Is an amount that varies, and where the pavement takes place varies from time to time. I do know that, for instance, in my own riding, there were a few years where there was a lot of money spent in the repaving of the 104. Well, that didn't get to many of the county roads. in my area, because if it was going on the 104, it wasn't going there. And this year, for instance, in Shelburne, there's an amount of $13 million being expended in Shelburne County. And I don't know that there's another county in the province that has that much money being spent. So you know, if you and Timberley Prospect, yeah, is just. I'm sorry, Timberley Prospect is just behind you by $65,000, Mr. Chairman.
The honourable member for Shelburne.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think that the residents of Shelburne County have been waiting 10 years for that $13 million announcement. So spread over the 10 years, it's been long overdue. Again, I want to thank the minister for my opportunity to speak to you on this particular evening. I do think it's a privilege. I want to thank you for your remarks. And at this time, Mr. Chair, I'd like to turn share my time with my colleagues from Halifax Citadel.
The honourable member for Halifax Citadel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I must compliment the minister on surviving what has clearly been a very long day and still being in good form and answering most questions directly. And I particularly appreciate the fact that so many cabinet ministers have been present at these hearings to listen to some of the questions and some of the answers. And I particularly appreciate the Minister for Service Nova Scotia being present, because many of my questions touch on his area of responsibility. And I know that even though they are directed at you, to you. I represent Halifax Citadel, and so.
Just to note to the honourable member for Halifax Citadel, you're not allowed to draw attention to ministers. Absence or presence of ministers in the chamber.
Shame.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I represent Halifax Citadel, and many of my questions relate more to urban transportation than rural ones. And I understand that the paving and widening of roads and highways is a really important issue to Nova Scotians, especially those who live in rural communities. But I did want to ask a few questions in the time I have to talk about whether or not the department or the government has a transportation strategy that revolves around rural transit within rural areas, and that connects rural areas to urban areas.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And our department very much focuses on the provision of roads as opposed to any sort of policies that relate to public transport. That's not within the authority of the Department of Transportation Public Works, and transit is a municipal responsibility.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Citadel.
I thank the minister for his answer, but I note that the department is called the Department of Transportation, and transportation does include transit, within rural areas and from rural areas, and the construction of roads plays a part in getting people to and from these areas. But I was wondering whether or not the department had any particular view towards the provision of public transit in this area, and were making any provisions for that, and I take the answer to be a no.
Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And what our mandate is to provide the roadways for people to travel on, whether they be individuals traveling, or whether it be goods traveling, or whether it be public transit traveling the roads. It's our responsibility to try and provide the roads and maintain them.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Citadel.
I have questions for constituents, for example, who travel to and from urban and rural areas. Wondering whether or not there is any policy around widening lanes so that people who travel on from bicycles long distances, for example, for sport or recreation or employment, are taken into consideration when highways are being constructed.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and the honourable member is making reference to a subject matter that is of interest to a number of people who have been in contact with the department recently. But currently, we do not have any policies or programs with respect to that. But as I indicated, there have been recent discussions with groups who are interested in that.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Citadel.
I'm very glad to hear that, Mr. Chair, because there are a number of people in Halifax, in the constituency of Halifax Citadel in particular, and also people who are in the travel and tourism industry who would very much like to see some provision made for people, especially Europeans, who seem to come to Halifax and Nova Scotia and enjoy biking around to our beaches and to our fishing villages. And for many of them, the quality of our highways makes a big difference, especially for bicycles and using alternate transit. And certainly, I would encourage further consideration of this possibility, especially for roads that are used by commuters and people who use it for travel and tourism purposes. I'm assuming that the answer to this question is no, but I'll ask it anyway. There is, as you know, a huge demand for public transit, and the main complaint seems to be that there really isn't any money for buses or trains or fast ferries, and I'm wondering if the minister considers this as within his area of responsibility.
The Honourable Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. There have been two recent developments that I would draw the honourable member's attention to, which should assist in addressing the concerns which he expressed. One, of course, is the policy of the federal government with respect to providing assistance to urban transit, and that is a policy that's designed to encourage increased use of urban transit. The other, of course, is the decision taken by the previous government, federal government, which was to transfer gasoline tax money to municipalities. And one of the great challenges that municipalities have, especially urban municipalities, that was articulated as they made the case for the transfer of this money was the expansion of public transit. So there are opportunities there. And I would point out to the honourable member that of the $140 million that the federal government takes out of Nova Scotia in excise tax that goes to the federal coffers, we only get about $4 million of that back to expend on our highways. So if we had some of that gasoline tax money, then we might be in a position to start looking at some of the programs the honourable member would like to see us show more interest in.
The Honourable Member for Halifax Citadel.
I know the minister is talking more about urban issues, but really I'm talking more about interregional transit and transit that addresses rural needs, because we think that rural transit and public transit in particular plays a really vital role in creating job opportunities and social and economic opportunities for rural residents, and especially for younger Nova Scotians who people on low incomes who can't afford cars. Public transit in regional areas is an important opportunity. It provides them with an important opportunity. And I'm not really just talking about urban transit, and I want to know whether or not the minister feels he has any jurisdiction in addressing this need in rural communities.
Transportation and Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And the question of rural transportation is one which is addressed somewhat by the Department of Service Nova Scotia and Municipal Relations, and they have attempted to provide opportunities for underserviced needs that exist in some parts of the province. We also have, the private sector responds. There's a considerable, I know from my own community into the city, there are a number of shuttle services that operate back and forth, provide excellent service to people. They're able to leave Antigonish in the morning, come to the city, do their business, and they're home, many of them, in time for supper in the evening. There is a lot of activity out there.